You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sara J. Loureiro.
All right, welcome, loves, to one of the most requested topics that I get, especially from my clients. And so this episode is going to be all about how to create your own morning routine, and in specific, how I created a morning routine that I've personally used to double and triple my monthly income. And so I remember a time back in 2014, and I know 2014 seems like a really, really long time ago, but I can remember this time very distinctly because for me, it was a time where I had already been working in my 9-to-5 for a few years. I had gotten comfortable there. I kind of knew the ins and outs of my 9-to-5 and everything that I was doing, but I knew that I wanted more. I knew that there was something else out there for me, but I didn't quite understand what it was and what was meant for me at the time. Of course, now I do. But hindsight is always so much easier, isn't it? And so at the time, I was just coming out of quite a few different health problems that I had going on. And I wanted to take my journey, my wellness journey, to the next level. I really wanted to tap deeper into what it meant to really live more of a purposeful life, more of a meaningful life, more of a mindful life. And one of the things that I kept on reading about was the power of morning routines, was the power of waking up earlier. I was reading so many self-help books at the time, and this whole concept, this whole notion just really, really intrigued me. And so that's ultimately when I started developing a morning routine. It was in 2014. I know it was a long time ago. It doesn't mean that you need to be doing a morning routine for 5 years until you reach a 6-figure business or anything like that, but what it does mean is I've been doing this for a really, really long time, and my morning routine was probably one of the fundamental things that allowed me to completely shift my perspective from what I chose to believe right after graduating from my master's degree and kind of going through my 9-to-5 and feeling a little bit dissatisfied with everything that I had going on versus what I choose to believe now. And what I ultimately started to choose to believe as I developed and as I cultivated this amazing, beautiful morning routine. And so when I started doing my own morning routine, I actually decided to start with my yoga practice. And so I wasn't even a certified yoga teacher at the time. I just wanted to master my practice a little bit more, get a lot more in tune with my body, in tune with my mind, in tune with my spirit. And so I started progressively waking up a little bit earlier every single morning until the 5:30 mark was just a specific point in time that felt really good to me because 5:30 I could wake up. I could get out on my yoga mat around 5:45, do my yoga practice, then I can do a little bit of a meditation practice, get ready for work, and be out the door at around 7:30 or 8 o'clock or so. And for me, this was all about having zero excuses because I knew how good this morning routine was going to make me feel. And so I went through and I literally read so much literature around developing a yoga routine in the morning, how to start your day off on a good note, on a blank slate, all of that kind of stuff. I was really, really prepared to make this work, and that's exactly why it did work, and it has been working for 5 years now. And there's this beautiful feeling that I can't quite explain, but there's this beautiful feeling that you get from waking up before everyone else does. From waking up either with the sunrise or, if you happen to live in North America in December, you're definitely not going to be waking up at the sunrise at 5:30 in the morning, but you catch my drift. So basically waking up before everyone else does, before there's a whole bunch of lights turned on in the city, when everything is so quiet, when there's not even any place open that you can call, or anyone who's on your Facebook Messenger, or anyone who's on your Instagram, and you can just have this beautiful time to yourself. And so what I quickly realized from my morning routine is that I really wanted to preach about this morning routine. I really wanted to start doing a lot more with my yoga practice. I ended up becoming a certified yoga teacher. I ended up teaching in person and online. And then from 2016 and onwards, when I finally got really, really serious about my online business, I was able to fully book out that online business 2 different times. I quit my 9 to 5. And then in January of 2018, my husband and I sold everything that we had in Toronto, in our small little 1-bedroom apartment in beautiful, beautiful Toronto, beautiful but insane Toronto. And we moved to his family's organic farm in Nicaragua. And so since we have been here, I've actually started up a second business. I fully booked out that business. I started creating consistent 5-figure months just 3 months into that business. And I have kind of continued to use this morning routine as a tool to help me get there, as a tool to really help me to expand my consciousness, to help me to release all my fears, and really to help me embody the person it is and it was who I wanted to become. And to me, when I think about and when I talk about these morning routines, it's not just a coincidence. So it's not just a coincidence that in 2014, I decided that I was going to wake up earlier, advance my yoga practice, and then proceed to become a certified yoga teacher and proceed to have all of these beautiful things happen in my life. It's not a coincidence that that happened at the same time that I decided to take my morning routine seriously and really decided to live on purpose. And this is what I ultimately believe to be true for every woman out there, every woman and man who really wants to aspire to something. Anyone who owns a business, not just for the sake of owning a business, but who owns a business and who is creating a business as a vision, as a bigger picture, as a bigger part of helping society, of bettering the world around them. It was precisely in and around the end of my 9 to 5 when I was really, really growing my first business and I was creating a ton of momentum, where I realized that this wasn't just another job. It wasn't that I was leaving a job to go to another job. This was a lifestyle. This is another big thing that I created with my own mind and with my own hands. But the only way that I really was able to do that was to completely focus on what it is that I wanted and where I really wanted to go, where I really wanted to take this business, what I really wanted to do with it. And ultimately, having a morning routine where I focused on those goals was one of the biggest game changers that I ultimately was able to give myself. And so I get this question a lot. A lot of my clients have been asking me recently, what exactly do you do during this morning routine? What are all the steps that you take during this time for yourself? How long do you commit to it? How long do I need to actually make this worthwhile, to make this beneficial for both me and my life and ultimately the growth and sustainability of my business? And here's the thing. You don't necessarily need to be waking up at 5:30. In fact, as soon as I quit my 9 to 5, I wasn't waking up at 5:30 anymore because I didn't need to go to work at 7:30 or 8 anymore. And so I actually started doing my morning routine closer to about 6 or 7. And to be honest, I really want to get back up to 5. 5 is like such a beautiful golden hour for me. 5 o'clock and 5:30 are just those times where like literally no one is awake. And to me, that is such beautiful, precious time. I have a client who wakes up at 4 because she has 3 children under 6. And so if you have a lot of children, you probably really, really identify with her. That's really the only time that you can get nice, really focused and streamlined work done. And so while you'd preferably want your morning routine to happen somewhere in between 5 and 7 a.m., I want you to choose a time that suits you. So I want you to choose a time that suits you and your lifestyle. Try to think about, if you're still in a 9 to 5, try to think about how long it usually takes you to go to work. So what time do you normally, right now, get up? Do you get up at a specific time every single day? I would highly advise you for both you and the health of your body to get up at a consistent time every single day, unless you have a job where you know that you have a very, very random schedule. This is one of the best gifts that you can give to your health, is having a very consistent sleep schedule. And so once you figure that out, once you figure out exactly what time you normally wake up, if it's at 8 or if it's at 7 or if it's at 6 or whatever, what you're going to want to do is add an hour to that time. And so if you're thinking I'm crazy right now, think about it this way. The crazy people are the people who actually change this goddamn world. So if you want to be normal, sure, don't wake up an hour early. But I know that you don't want to be normal because you're listening to this podcast episode. So if you want an extraordinary life, and if you really, really want to surpass the things that you're capable of and really push your own boundaries, and you're thinking of a morning routine, the first step is to wake up an hour earlier than you normally do. And so usually people put their limit to about 4 a.m. 4 a.m. is like the absolute earliest that I could possibly get up. For me, it's somewhere between 5 and 6 right now, where I know is my best time for my morning routine. By all means, if you are already out of your full-time job, if you are already dedicating full-time hours to your business, by all means, make your morning routine 2 hours. This is something that I'm personally working towards because it is so important. The being part of your business, the mindfulness part of your business, the creativity, all of that kind of stuff is going to come out of these hours, these early morning hours that you use to cultivate your creativity, to cultivate your purpose, and to cultivate your focus. And so once you find a specific point in time that you're going to consistently use to wake up at that specific time, what you want to do is choose the senses that you are going to be changing. Choose the senses that you're going to be playing around with during your morning routine. So one of the biggest things that I do that's a huge non-negotiable is movement. And so for me, that's usually either walking, running, or doing my yoga practice. Usually it's a combination of walking and running and doing my yoga practice. So my ideal morning looks like 10 minutes of running, and then followed by another about 20 minutes of yoga. The yoga is primarily stretching, but I highly, highly advise that you take this morning routine and you take the movement aspect of your morning routine and you focus on something where you're going to sweat. Focus on something where, once again, you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. You're giving yourself those beautiful endorphins that so many of us miss out on throughout the day just because we feel tired or we are psychologically tired and we convince ourselves that we're too tired to actually go out and move our bodies. If you put this into the beginning of the day, I can promise you that you are going to feel a million times better and probably more energetic throughout your day. And so once you're done your movement aspect of your morning routine, that's when you want to go on to something along the lines of visualizing or feeling. And usually for me, this is when I do my meditation practice. And so yoga traditionally was actually used in ancient India to prepare the body for meditation. And so yoga itself, the poses that we do in yoga, the energy that we expel in yoga was actually the primary purpose of doing that. The primary purpose of just like letting go of all that static energy and really just working the body was to prepare the body for sitting for long periods of time in meditation. I think this is quite incredible, and it works so, so well. This is why so many times when we sit down to meditate, we get incredibly agitated, we feel incredibly cranky, fidgety, all of that kind of stuff. I invite you to do movement before you do your meditation practice and see how different that feels. And so I myself usually do about between 20 and 30 minutes of this movement time every morning. And I follow that with about 10 minutes of meditation. It's always been a goal of mine to move that 10 minutes to 20. I always try to convince myself that I don't have enough time in the morning, even though I literally only work on my business right now. But this is something that I'm constantly working towards. So if you feel like you can only have time for 5 minutes of meditation, that's totally fine. I would also invite you to slowly start to create longer and longer periods of meditation. And so what I do usually for those 10 minutes of meditation is I visualize. And so no two meditations are alike. You can focus on your breath for the entirety of 10 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour. You can do a meditation that's all about repeating a specific mantra to yourself over and over and over again. You can do a meditation that's completely guided, where someone else is guiding you through a journey throughout your, 5, 10, 20 minutes that you decide to do. Or you can have your own visualization. And so what I usually do is I actually visualize the future exactly the way that I want to see my future. And so I envision my future with my son, with my husband. I envision us going to Italy, going to a really, really nice place in the islands of Greece. I envision us in our brand new home. I envision myself completely rocking it at in-person conferences where I am one of the lead guest speakers. I envision really, really successful program launches. I envision happiness. I envision calm. I envision peacefulness. Whatever it is that I want to happen within the next year, 3 years, or 5 years, I envision all of that within my meditation every single morning. But one of the biggest tips that I can give you in terms of visualizing along with your meditation is to not only see it, but also feel it. So how does it feel to be on a family vacation with your family in Greece? How does it feel to be one of the keynote speakers at a new conference? How does it feel to see a whole bunch of payments coming into your bank account at the end of a successful launch? Are you smiling? Are you excited? Are you joyful? What are all of those emotions? What are all of those feelings that are going on inside of you? If you are on a family holiday, or even if you're going by yourself to Bali, what are the types of smells that you can try to reimagine? What are you hearing? What's going on outside? The more that you can envision all of that, the more real that meditation and that visualization actually gets. We often say in yoga, and I say this all the time within my business coaching, is that what we focus on expands. The mind is everything. What we think, we will become. And so if we are constantly thinking every single morning about that vacation to Europe, or if we are constantly thinking about that dream home, or if we are constantly thinking about that successful launch, we will start becoming that successful launch. We will start becoming that person who goes on that really nice trip to Greece. We will start becoming that person who is all of those things that you want to cultivate within the future and really within the present. And this is ultimately what I talk about when I talk about the being aspect of your business, and about how business isn't only doing. It's not only putting the strategic work in. It's not only do, and how. Half of your business and half of your business success is going to be focused on the being aspect. How are you being the person who is going to make the 6 figures? How are you being the person who's getting fully booked? How are you being the person who has a really successful group program launch. And then what I do personally is I open up my journal. And in opening up my journal, I love keeping my mornings super, super high vibe. So I don't really do a lot of brain dumping. Instead, I just do a whole bunch of inspiration. And so I will write down in my journal, like I am, and then whatever it is that I'm identifying with, whatever it is I'm trying to cultivate. And in fact, even just a year ago, or I think a little bit more than a year ago, I would write down in my journal every single morning, I am a spiritual six-figure entrepreneur that makes decisions based on my own intuition. And I would literally write that in my journal every single day. And I really had no idea how I was going to become a six-figure entrepreneur who made decisions based on her intuition. I knew that I was spiritual, but I had no idea how that was going to happen, and that's okay. It's okay that I had no idea how that was going to happen, because it ended up happening. I ended up making over six figures within 1 year. And so this is the power of visualization, and this is the power of repeated focus on one specific object of desire that you really, really want in the future. So that's usually what I do. I start off with a sentence, with a really, really empowering sentence that is both present tense and specific. And then I'll go into a whole bunch of other really fun things about how it is that I perform this, how it is that I am becoming this person. And so maybe, it's me no longer catering to specific fears, catering to specific judgments. And I make sure that every single thing that I write is present tense and specific. It's not something that's in the future. It's something that's in the here and the now, because I need to identify with the person that I'm becoming by becoming her now, by becoming that version of her now. And so I like to keep my journaling pretty open-ended. There's a few different exercises that I'll actually do when I feel like doing them. But overall, that's one of the fundamental things that I pretty much always write down in my journal. And after the journaling, then it's kind of like a free-for-all for me. So I either eat my breakfast or take a shower, or do both of those things in the complete opposite order. And then at that specific point in time is when I start working, is when I start opening up my email, is when I start addressing Facebook comments or working on my Facebook group or working on Instagram or anything like that. Only then. And this is really important, because we will always give ourselves excuses as to why we can't do our mindset routines, as why we can't do our morning routines, because there's so much other work that we have to do. If you do your morning routine without looking at anything else, while giving yourself zero excuses, I promise you that you will still have time to do all of those other things that you really want to do in the day. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to do, 30 minutes of exercise, 10 minutes of meditation, and 10 minutes of journaling. You could do 5 minutes of exercise, 5 minutes of meditation, and 2 minutes of journaling. It doesn't really matter. It's about how much time you perceive yourself having, and ultimately what you want to do and how much you want to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. So those are the fundamentals of my morning routine, loves, and I hope that from all of these little tidbits of information, you have become inspired to either start your own morning routine or to tweak whatever you have. If you have any comments about anything that I've been talking about, feel free to reach out on Instagram at Sara J. Loureiro, or on Facebook. It's the exact same, Sara J. Loureiro. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarajloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.